Hi, my name is Ashish, and in this video we will see blocking legacy authentication in Azure Active Directory. So what are authentication? What are legacy applications? So to understand more about these terms and how to achieve blocking of the legacy authentication, let me just quickly log on to the portal and take it from there. Okay, I'm logged on to the portal. So So what is a legacy application? So to give users easy access to all the cloud apps, Azure Active Directory supports a broad variety of authentication protocols, including legacy authentication. Legacy authentication is a term that refers to an authentication request made by an older Office clients that do not use modern authentication. For example, Office 2010 clients, any client that use legacy mail protocols such as IMAP, SMTP, or POP3. Today, the majority of all compromising sign-in attempts come from a legacy authentication. Legacy authentication does not support multi-factor authentication, which is a primary security feature that all of your apps, even email or your online email accounts, Hotmail, Gmail, or any other email accounts, every application that we use enforces us to use multi-factor authentication, and legacy authentication application does not support it, right? So even if you have an MFA policy enabled on your directory, a bad user or a bad hacker can authenticate using a legacy protocol and bypass MFA. The best way to protect the account from malicious authentication requests made by legacy protocol is to block these attempts altogether, considering all the requirements that you have to take care when you are disabling legacy authentication, because it may break communication from your legacy applications to the modern applications that you have hosted on cloud. So you'll have to consider each and everything before you make this change, and it depends upon the discussion, your requirements, your needs, how you want to upgrade. So first of all, the major task would be to identify legacy authentication use. Before we can block legacy authentication in the directory, we need to first understand if the users have apps that use legacy authentication and how it would affect the overall directory. So to capture those information, we can use Azure AD sign-in logs to understand if we are using legacy authentication. And to do that, you'll have to go to Azure Active Directory, and then you would have to click in sign in here under monitoring. You will get the logs, and if you would not see the client app column, sorry about it, click on sign in, click on columns. You see this client app, check OK, and you see this client app, you would see browser here. So now you have to filter these logs by client app, and then you will have to check all the legacy authentication clients, and you have to filter the status as filter filter it using success. Or we can download the CSV. These are all files, right? So you can download this as well. So you'll have to filter it by success, then you'll have to expand your date range with the date filter, and then you have to check the logs. You have to filtering will only show the successful sign-in attempts that were made by the selected legacy authentication protocols. You have to click on each individual sign-in attempt, and it will show you additional details. So if I click on this event that I'm seeing, it is my, then you would have to date, request ID, correlation ID, status is success. Right, so you'll have to filter each and every log with filter as success, and you will see the client app here. Then you will see if it's a browser or if it's using any legacy authentication protocol. And these logs will indicate which users are still depending upon legacy authentication and which applications are using legacy protocols to make authentication request. And then you will have to identify, and then you'll have to make a step to move away from legacy authentication. Once you have a better idea of who is using legacy authentication and which application depends upon it, the next step is to upgrade your users to use modern authentication, which would have MFA policy in place on the directory. Modern authentication would also ensure that users are prompted for MFA as and when required. So, first step would be to enable modern authentication in your directory. How would you do it? So, you would have to first of all check if your directory supports modern authentication. So, you would have to go on to PowerShell. Like this, I'm gonna go run as administrator, the integrated script editor. Close it, let it launch. Connect AZ account. It will give a pop-up. Enter the username and password. You will get this screen, right? And then you will have to do get CS auth configuration. It is not recognized because you will have to download the Skype for Business online PowerShell module. So if you don't have it, install that module. And then you would be able to see the result if you're using uh, enable the modern application or not. And then you would have to let me check if I can download it. You can use install module Microsoft Teams, run it, click on yes to all. It will take some time and install the module. Complete it. Okay, it is installed. Then you would have to write import module Microsoft Teams. Now we'll have to import it. It's done. Then you would have to type in a command to declare a variable get-user equal to get credential. I'm going to enter my credentials here. Done. Now you will do connect Microsoft Teams credential dollar user. Okay, because I don't have Teams and I'm not installed with that user account, it is not working. Or I can do, because I'm an admin on this account. Let me do this. Okay, so because I was already logged in, so it will give a pop-up to you with all the accounts that are listed or with which you are already logged in. Make sure you select the correct account. And then you would do get CS auth configuration. See the command completed successfully because I've got the modules. Online session. No, it's not working. So you'll get the value out of this. Right? So the next point would be to interact with your Office applications once you have enabled modern authentication. In your directory, you can start updating applications by enabling modern authentication for Office clients. Right? And then step 3 would be to Exchange and SharePoint for Windows-based Outlook clients. To use modern authentication, Exchange Online must be modern authentication enabled as well. If modern authentication is disabled for Exchange Online, Windows-based Outlook clients that support modern authentication will use basic authentication to connect to Exchange Online mailboxes. Next step would be for the Skype for Business. And to prevent legacy authentication requests made by Skype for Business, it is necessary to enable modern authentication for Skype for Business online. And then at last, you can go for the on-premise clients. If you are a hybrid customer using Exchange Server on premises and Skype for Business on premises, both services will need to be updated to enable modern authentication. This is how you check, confirm, and verify the users or the applications that are using the legacy authentication methods, and slowly and steadily you remove legacy authentication to make your environment safer. So I hope this was informative for all of you guys. If you have any queries, mention them in the comment section and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Have a good day.